Welcome to the MVM review of the Quacks of Quedlinburg. This is from North Star Games. It was a Kennerspiel de Jahres winner earlier this year. They've just brought it out here to the States. This is a push your luck potion making game that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so the designer is Wolfgang Warsch, who is really known for a lot of his roll and write style games.
Yeah, all of his 2018 games.
Exactly. So it's got a very strong designer pedigree behind the game. It's actually a very interesting game. As you said, it's a push your luck style game, which does not fall at all in my wheelhouse of the type of games I like. However, the theme and the gameplay is really enjoyable because what you're trying to do is you're trying to throw ingredients into this giant boiling pot in order to gain victory points, and the ingredients that you use are either going to earn you points and possibly rubies, but they could also bust, meaning that you don't get anything from them. So it's a balancing act.
Yeah, for sure, and it doesn't use dice, so the way you're pushing your luck in this is it's a bag builder. You're each going to have a bag, and you're going to have some starting ingredients, and you're going to be adding ingredients to that bag throughout the game, hoping to get that ratio of the right ingredients into your pot and the ones that you don't want in there left in your bag.
All right, so the game is going to take place over 9 rounds, and during the rounds, as just as we said, you're going to be pulling ingredients from your bag and throwing them into your pot. Now, the game can be played in 2 different ways. You can play simultaneously, in which everyone's pulling at the same time, or you can play in turn order. It's really up to the group to decide how they want to play the game. And when you pull these from the bag, they're each going to do very specific things according to the book of ingredients that's being used for those particular ingredients. Now, we have some laid out here already, but there's a whole variety of these as well that you can play with. And they're double-sided. So if you decide that one game you want to try different ingredient mixtures, you can do that. So the combinations are endless, really.
Yeah, and the way these ingredients work is each of those little booklets will tell you what an ingredient does. And these things can do one of many different things. Some of them will just score you some straight-up points. Some of them play off of other ingredients. Some of them let you sort of look into your bag and draw a few. There's a lot of different abilities, and it's the variability in how you set these things up is amazing.
The one thing you need to know about all the ingredients, though, is they're each going to have a number associated on that ingredient. These range from 1 up to 4. That tells you how many spots you get to move in that spiral pattern on your actual pot. Now, as David said, each player is going to start with 9 ingredients. The one you need to be careful for is the white ingredients. That's what everyone's going to start with. You're going to start with different values ranging from 1 to 3. And the trick in the game is as you pull these out and place them into your cauldron, you don't want to draw white tiles that equal more than 7, because that's going to bust and mean that you have to stop placing or pulling things from your bag and placing them into your cauldron.
Yeah, and before we get too much into the flow of the game, in addition, we just want to cover some of these components here.
Sure.
In addition to the ingredients books, you're going to have the main board that basically just tells you the structure of the game. There's 9 rounds, but then there's also an evaluation phase that you're going to run through at the bottom. And then, of course, everyone has their pot in front of them. And then there's these fortune teller cards here. The fortune teller cards are what really kicks off every round of the game. And like Jeremy just started to say, at the very beginning of the game, you're going to be pulling these things out of your bag to get your potion going. But before that, you're going to draw one of these fortune teller cards.
Yep.
These are going to do one of 2 different things. The purple ones are going to have an immediate effect. And these are usually lighthearted, like everyone gets a ruby, or everyone who has this gets this. So they just kind of make, put events into the game that kind of stir things up a little bit.
No
and
pun
then,
intended.
Yeah, well, I did intend that pun. And then you've got these blue ones. The blue ones are sort of end-of-round game effects. So a card like that might say, at the end of the round, if you didn't bust this round or explode your potion, then you'll get X, Y, Z, things like that.
All right, so let's look at the actual player boards themselves to understand how the game works. You're going to notice a 0 marker. That is where you're going to place your initial teardrop tile. This is where you're going to start placing at the beginning of your round. Through the course of the game, you're going to be moving that in a spiral formation, meaning you get to start a little bit stronger in the concurrent rounds that you play. When you draw from the bag, you're going to place it X number of spaces away from that starting droplet and from each previous ingredient that you've thrown into your pot. So if I start at the 0 and I draw something that has the number 3 on it, I'm going to place 3 spaces around in that circular pattern away from that. And I'm going to keep drawing until I decide to stop, which is typically how you're going to finish out a round, or until you draw a sum of 8 white tiles or white ingredients. That's going to bust and mean that you have to stop drawing from your bag at that time.
Yeah, once you get to 7, you've got to be very careful. In fact, once you get to 5 or 6, you need to be careful depending on what's in your bag. And you can never look in your bag in this game.
Yep.
Even if you're looking in towards the end to see what do I have left, you're not allowed to look in the bag. So once you draw greater than 7, your potion explodes, and that's going to have some negative ramifications during the evaluation phase.
All the different tiles, as we said at the very beginning, are going to have very different effects depending upon the book that you're actually pulling from. These are going to allow you to do and manipulate your bag in very specific ways, or to place on your board in very specific ways. So through the course of the game, you're going to be buying new ingredients and placing them into your bag, and you're going to have some idea of what's left in there, so you know at any given time what may and may not be left in that bag according to the odds at that given time.
Yeah, and plus your bag resets every round, so you're going to be taking all the ingredients you purchased and all the ingredients that you used in your potion and putting them back into your bag. So you're going to have more and more ingredients. By the end of the game, you're going to have a bag full of these little tiles or chips to pull out. So it gets really interesting. You can have really good rounds, or you can have some really bad rounds. But like we said, back to the beginning, after that fortune teller card, everyone, and in most cases simultaneously, will just start simply drawing chips out of their bag and placing them, as Jeremy described, on your potion. Everyone's going to decide, do I want to stop? Do I want to push my luck? Once everyone is either passed or busted, then you go into the evaluation phase.
And the evaluation phase is simply going to go from left to right according to this central board. And there's a number of different steps that are going to happen during this time. The first one being, you're going to look at each player's cauldron and figure out which of the players has progressed the furthest at that given time. Whoever has progressed the furthest and is not busted has the bonus of rolling this die and getting whatever may be associated with it. And there's victory points, there's rubies, there's even the ability to move up your droplet further at that given time. If people do tie, they get to share in that reward as well.
Yeah, and then the next step, you're going to evaluate some of the chips that have an end of round effect. This is the black, the green, and the pink, which comes out in a later phase of the game. But these are going to do different things. If I have more black on my cauldron than people to my left and right, I might get some things. They have a variety of different effects, and then you're going to move on to rubies.
When you finish your cauldron, when you decide to quit, you're going to look at the last placement of where you have one of your ingredients. If the next available one has a ruby printed on that number, you're going to collect a ruby at this time, and the rubies are used at the end, typically, of the round.
Yeah, that next space is the space that everything focuses on here. The next couple phases of this section are going to be points and money. You're going to be looking at the space just beyond where you placed your last ingredient. And like Jeremy said, if it has a ruby, you get a ruby. And then you're going to have to be faced with a choice, potentially, if you busted. If you busted, you're going to choose to either take the points on that space or the money, which you're going to spend to buy ingredients. If you didn't bust, good news, you get both. So the first thing you do is take your points. So if you're allowed the points, you're going to take those points around the point track. Then you're going to buy ingredients. So you're going to look at that space and see how much money you have. In this case, I might have 10 money to spend in the first round. That's about as far as you might get. You're going to look at all the available ingredients, and the costs of the ingredients are below each level of ingredient. So you can see here on the green ingredient, a 1 value costs 4, a 2 costs 8, and a 4 costs 14. Couple rules when you're buying here. You can buy only up to 2 ingredients, and if you do buy 2, they have to be 2 different colors. So you can't stack up significantly on one color throughout the game.
Those ingredients that you buy are going to go directly into your bag along with everything else that you've used in your cauldron, so you're going to reset round after round. The final thing that happens during the round is you get to spend any rubies that you have in your bag over here on your player board. You can spend 2 rubies to do one of 2 different things. One is to move up your droplet, meaning that in each concurrent round you get to start a little bit further in that cauldron circle. The second thing that happens is you can reset your potion. Each player is going to have a double-sided bottle here, which allows them to do one thing and one thing only during the game. And that is, when you draw a tile out, if you don't like the tile, you can flip this over and put the tile back. The only time you can't use that is if you were to bust.
Right.
If you bust, you bust. This isn't going to save you.
Right.
And that allows you to reset that potion back to its available side.
Yeah, resetting that potion can be key. And that's the end of the round. You're going to do this for 9 rounds, and there's going to be a few different things that happen here. At the beginning of every subsequent round, though, you're going to look at the score track. And this is a kind of a nice little feature. Everyone has this little mouse or rat here on their player board as well. And if you're trailing in score, this little guy is going to help you start your droplet a little further. So if we looked at the score here and I was in the lead and this was the situation, you're going to count the number of rat tails between you and the leader at that point, and you're going to be able to move that many spaces beyond where your droplet is. Basically keep giving everyone sort of an even standing as you start the next round.
So you're going to do that for 9 rounds, and then you're going to score up some end-of-game points, and that's basically how you play the Quacks of Quedlinburg. So let's talk about the actual review itself. As we said, this is a Kennerspiel des Jahres winner, so obviously it has a lot of fans and a lot of votes behind the game. But there are some pros and cons depending upon where you fall on that enthusiast and family gamer line. So I'll talk about my first positive, and this is a push your luck, and families, I think, are going to enjoy this for a variety of reasons. Number one, because it's just fun. I mean, it really is fun to pull those ingredients out and go like, oh, right. I had no idea. I knew my odds were like 30% and I drew the wrong one. Not only that, but the game looks really pretty on the table. Like, this is a very well drawn and has great graphic design, so that helps push that level up a little bit as well.
Oh yeah, the table presence is phenomenal. I love these little books. Are probably one of my single favorite components of the year. They just look really nice on the table. The fact that you get a couple of them for each color and both of them are double-sided to give the game a massive amount of variability as well.
The other thing I'll mention too that I really enjoy about the game, as I said, is the bag building portion. At the start of the game, everyone's going to start with 9 of those ingredients in their bag. However, over 9 rounds, you're going to get up to 25 of them. So there is some ability to kind of tailor what you're trying to do in the game, especially with all the different types of these books that you just mentioned. There's a lot of variety in these because they're all double-sided. So most of them have 4 different combinations of things that can come out. So you can really kind of strategize and lay those out on your board in very particular ways. But again, it depends on your enjoyment of push your luck, because sometimes it's not going to fall your way at all.
No, the rounds will vary, and it is one of those things where you have to really embrace that and have fun with the highs and not be miserable with the lows of having a bad round, because you can always rebound. One other thing I'll say about the variety here, the way you build your bag ends up creating a lot of variability, because 3/4 of the way through the game, someone's using a lot of these yellow tiles, and I haven't gotten any yellow tiles, and I'm envious of how they're using their yellow tiles. So you want to play again and like maybe try new strategies with this, let alone the fact that there's going to be new strategies depending on what books you use.
2 final things I like about the game. One, there is a backside to the cauldron board, so there is some variability on what you can do on the backside as well. Plus, I like the idea that it has a catch-up mechanic in it. So again, it caters towards a family game. Like kids that are just playing this for the first time, they don't really know how combinations of things are going to work together. If they're getting far behind on the score track, they're still going to start high up on this, meaning they have the possibility of getting on the same positioning as you do during the cauldron.
Yeah, that rat tail catch-up mechanic is vital. You certainly don't want to miss that, because it does keep every round exciting and everyone's relatively close during the round anyway.
Do you have any other positives?
No, I mean, I really love it. It's a family-friendly, just good time. Does this appeal to our enthusiast side? Not so much, but we've had fun every time we played it. It's just, I can't tell you, when you have your hand in that bag, comparing it to like rolling a die and pushing
different,
it,
for sure.
You feel these tiles and you're like, oh, I hope this is a green one. I hope, and then you're pulling it out and it is or it isn't, and it makes for an exciting
But it
moment.
also helps, like a die is just deterministic by whatever the die is.
Exactly.
You putting the ingredients in there, you know what you've put in there. You've made some kind of decision on how you want to build out that bag. But at the end of the day, this is probably one of my biggest negatives. It's still a push your luck game. So no matter how good you are at building your bag or how good you are at playing games, if you draw poorly, you just draw poorly, and there's nothing you can really do about it. Yes, you have this potion that allows you to put one back, but you are putting that tile back, which means you can draw it again. So really, it is a game of luck at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. There, like we said earlier, there can be a round where you pull out white ingredient after white ingredient and just bust straight away, even after using your flask. So that can make for some down moments, but like I said, I think across 9 rounds, you're often going to have at least a few really high moments as well.
So that's really my only negative about the game. Other than that, I like what it tries to do. I think it's deserving of the Kennerspiel for the variety of reasons, mostly because it is a family game, it is a push your luck game, but there is elements that enthusiast gamers can enjoy as well. And I think that's what we've latched on to it is that it is fun to play. It's extremely enjoyable to play the game. There's no downtime, really. Everyone's participating at the same time, so you're not waiting long rounds for people to take their turn.
Yeah,
you're
it's a
doing
short
things
game.
at the same time. So
yeah, the fun fact, they've nailed the fun factor here.
Yeah.
Like we said earlier, it's not the kind of game that's in our wheelhouse, but every aspect of it's just fun. Even these event cards, you flip them over and they're ridiculous and silly at times, but it's just fun that everyone gets to do it.
So that is the Quacks of Quedlinburg. It is a 2 to 4 player game, ages 10 and up, from North Star Games. If you guys have any questions about the game, make them in the comments below. Subscribe to us, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and everything else that we do, and we will catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.